In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up Ableton Live with a Novation Launchkey Mini. You can get these for about $79 on Amazon, and I'm going to give you a download of my Ableton Live project set so you can start creating and performing right away. Let's go. What's up? This is DJENFERNO. Welcome to DJENFERNO TV. If you're new here and you're a DJ or a music producer and you want to level up your creativity and performance with music tech, please subscribe, ring the bell. So this is part 3 of my live remix tutorial series, and in this video I cover setting up Ableton Live for finger drumming with a Novation Launchkey Mini. By the end of this video, you will have set up your own project from scratch with multiple drum racks and kits that you can trigger with the Launchkey Mini. And what's also really cool is that you can use this same setup with the Launchkey 49 and Launchkey 61. It works for all of them. What's also really cool is you'll be able to do most of the same things that you can do with my normal live remix setup, which is Ableton Live with Machine. First, I'm going to show you guys my Ableton project set so you can see how it's set up with the Launchkey Mini. Then you'll get some time to play around with that setup. Then we'll start over from scratch and I'll walk you through step by step how to create your own Ableton project. So before we get started, to get the most out of this tutorial, you'll need 2 things. You'll need Ableton Live version 10 and you'll need the Novation Launchkey Mini or 49 or 61. So if you guys are ready, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna need to do is download the link in the description of this video and you will get a zip file containing my Ableton Live project file. So let's say you've done that, you've downloaded it to your desktop. Go to your desktop and here it is. It's a zip file. Go ahead and double click it or unzip it. And once it's unzipped, click into the folder and then double click the project file. While this is opening up, just make sure that your Launchkey Mini or Launchkey 49 or Launchkey 61, this setup will work with all 3. Make sure it's plugged in via USB into your laptop. In order to get sound flowing from Ableton Live to your speakers, just make sure you have it set up correctly in the preferences. So to go to preferences, you can go to Live Preferences here, or just hit Command, if you like keyboard shortcuts like me. Then you're going to click on the audio tab, and then you're going to make sure that your audio output device is set correctly. In my case, I'm just using the built-in output from my MacBook Pro, and I'm running a physical 1/8 inch to RCA cable from the built-in output to channel 1 on my mixer. So just to let you know, I'm using the built-in sound card of the computer because in the future, I'll be setting this up with Serato DJ or Serato DJ Pro, and I've had problems in the past using the same sound card for both Ableton and Serato on the same laptop. So I really advise that you use 2 different sound cards, and this is the easiest way that I found, and it sounds fine in a live environment. So you just connect that 1/8 inch on one side, which is like the iPod or something that goes into your phone, and on the other end, it's an RCA cable that goes into your mixer. Also, another thing to note is when you do use the setup this way, just make sure you have your volume set all the way up so that it will play at full volume, and then you can turn the gain up or down as you need on the mixer itself. Okay, so what we're gonna focus on for this tutorial is just the drum racks, because this is about setting up Ableton for finger drumming, and you will notice there's some other things here. You don't need to worry about them for now, but if you want, you could try playing around with them. There's a synth rack, sampler track. This is just a mic input, and then a group of loopers. And this is going to be something that we get to in future videos. But for now, let's focus on the drum racks. Okay, so this drum racks track right here is a MIDI track, and that means that it can contain virtual instruments like these individual drum racks, which can be controlled by a physical MIDI controller like this Launchkey Mini. And in this case, all these drum racks here, there's 8 of them, are contained inside a single instrument rack. And what we're going to do is we are going to be able to control each one of these by using the chain selector and moving the chain selector back and forth. You can do it with the mouse like this. And you can see how the selected drum rack changes as you change your chain selector. So because it's a lot harder to do this with a mouse in a live environment, I've got this mapped to this knob right here. Before this knob will start working with my template, you have to make sure that you turn off the in control. Once I turn that off, if I turn this knob here, you can see that the selected drum rack will start playing when I play these pads. So right here, you can see that these pads correspond to this section right here, from here to here, corresponds from here to here. Watch. And these as well. And then it starts over here on the left and goes up for the final 2 rows. All right, so if you're used to playing with a 4x4 setup, you're gonna have to kind of relearn your routines or relearn the way you play, but Again, this is kind of a budget solution with a piece of gear that is pretty cool, economical, and it's portable, and it has a lot of cool features. So before we move forward, I just want to make sure that you understand what in control is. So basically when this is pressed and in control is on, these pads no longer have the MIDI assignments that are contained inside my project. In fact, they act as a control surface for different functions in Ableton Live. For example, this row right here controls the launching of clips, which you can see if I start hitting these buttons, the corresponding clips that would have been in these clip slots would launch, right? Right here are the stop buttons for the individual tracks. And these knobs will control different controls inside of Ableton depending on what is selected. You'll notice that whatever has the blue hand on it will be controlled by these knobs. That's pretty cool, and it's really good for studio versus a live environment, in my opinion. So I keep in control off, and when I do that, I can make sure that these knobs and these pads will always be assigned to the same things all the time, no matter what is selected on the screen. The point is being able to play live without having to look at or touch your laptop as much as possible. That's the way I like to do it. Okay, so at this point, the sound should be flowing like you can see. And what happens if I change the drum rack? This will change as well. Change that again. Pretty cool. And you may notice that I keep my kicks here, my snares here, my closed hats here, my open hats here. It's a good idea to arrange your drum racks, if possible, with the same types of samples in the same pads. That way, if you ever want to improvise or come up with routines really quickly and play them without having to practice too much, it's all the muscle memory is there and you'll be able to play. So for example, I know that this is my kick, this is my snare, this is always going to be a crash, so I can always go back to, and I'll know what to do, and I can even improvise in the moment. So it's pretty cool. So that's pretty much the overview of my Ableton project. Go ahead and take a break, step away from this, and go ahead and play around with the drum racks, have some fun, and come back when you're ready to build your own Ableton project. Okay, I hope you had some fun playing with the drum racks. We've opened a new project. The way you can do that is Command N, or you can go up here to File and click New Live Set. And yours may look like mine. If it doesn't, it's fine. What you want to do is we want to have one MIDI track and one audio track for now. So this will become apparent a little bit later in this tutorial. So we're going to click on this MIDI track and delete, click on this audio track and delete. And then I want to switch the order of these. That's just the way I like to do it. And before we continue, let's go ahead and give this a name. So we're going to go to File and say Save Live Set As, right? And let's go ahead and give this a name like, you know. Okay, so if you're going to end up using a Launchkey throughout the rest of these tutorials, you can just keep going back to this particular Ableton project and build on this. Okay, so now you're going to go to your browser, all right, and you're going to click in the category section on drums. And right here is an empty drum rack. There's no sounds in it. And below it are all the drum kits that come with Ableton Live. I'm not sure what version you have, but if you have standard or suite or even intro, there's going to be several drum kits down here. And the higher the version you have, the more drum kits you have. And some of these are just some of my personal drum kits. Anyway, we're going to scroll down and I'm just going to find one drum kit that I kind of like. And let's just take a listen to some of these. I'm not mad at that one. Okay, so I'm going to find one that I like. I'm going to drag this into the MIDI track, and you're going to see the name of the MIDI track change here to the name of whatever that kit was. Let's go ahead and rename this while we're at it. We're going to click on the top of this track, type Command R, and this R for rename, and we're going to name this Drum Racks. Enter, right? We can even get a little color if we want. We can right-click it, and let's just make it orange. Why not? Okay, so now, before we continue, we need to make sure that the MIDI controller, the correct MIDI controller, is selected here in the input. So we're going to select here and look for our Launchkey Mini, and there it is. All the Launchkeys actually broadcast on channel 10, these pads. And I have to make sure, again, this in control is off. So these are always going to be on channel 10, so we're going to set this input also to channel 10. Just like that. And then we're going to select this monitor to in. That means no matter where I am in this project, even if this is not armed, these pads will play and control the drum racks. That seems a little bit loud. So you can turn the volume down here, okay? So now we've got a single drum rack in here, and we are ready to go. Okay, so this is great, but we want more than one drum kit in here because we want to have some options for different routines or different performances throughout your set. So we want to put another drum rack in here. Now, if we were to drag, I'm just going to pick this at random. If we drag another drum rack on top of this track, what's going to happen is it's going to replace the instrument that's already there. Watch. Now it's gone. It's replaced. That's not what we want. We want to undo that. And what we want to do is make this drum rack in here, actually make it into an instrument rack. And the way you can do that is click on it and type Command G. Now this has become an instrument rack, which you can see here. And if I click right here, we can see the chain and we can see that there's one drum rack in here. Now this is starting to look more similar to my project that I showed you earlier. All right, so now we're going to find another kit and we're going to place that kit right here. So let's take a look. Let's keep looking. That's kind of cool. So let's take this one here. This is kind of trappy. And we'll put that in here. All right. So now I found the kit that I want, the second kit, and we can do this as many times as we want. Okay, so now that we have these two kits, you'll notice that if I play one pad, it will trigger both kits on the corresponding pad. So if I solo this one, you can hear it. If I solo this one, you can hear it. And if I unsolo it, it's actually both at the same time, which we don't want. And actually, we have two kits here. I want one more. I want one that sounds more acoustic, right? Kind of like with my setup. Okay, so here's an acoustic kit. And the reason why I like using an acoustic kit, it really helps give your sets kind of a live sound because it sounds acoustic, right? So like if you ever heard a drummer playing along with the DJ, it's kind of that same feeling. So it kind of adds a little bit more of a live element to it. I like it. I like being able to improvise with an acoustic kit. I could show you kind of some techniques in later tutorials. So let's go ahead and take this one. We're going to drag this here as well. And we're going to go ahead and drag this to the top of the list, and I'll explain the reason for that in a little bit. Okay, so we've got the acoustic kit in here, and we want to be able, obviously, to select any one of these at a time, but not have them play at the same time like they are now. Now it's 3 at a time if I hit a pad, and you could tell especially when you see the metering here in all 3, okay? So the way we do this is we click on chain, then we're going to drag any one of these all the way to the right, just like that, to cover the entire range. And what you do, and it doesn't matter which one of these you do, if you do all 3 or just one, and then what you're going to do is click on distribute ranges equally. And what that's going to do is it's going to create an equal amount of chains between the 3 of these that can be selected in order to select these drum kits. Watch. Now you can see that in this range from here to here, the acoustic kit will be played if this chain is somewhere here, and once we're over here, it's going to select, or it's going to trigger these sounds in this kit and so forth for here. Okay, so now what I can do is I can move this chain back and forth and then trigger the corresponding drum rack. Very cool. And then now what you want to do is probably just go ahead and rearrange your pad, or rearrange your samples so that they're in a place where you can find them consistently. So I usually like my kick here, a snare here, a closed hat here, open hat here, like a fill type snare here. These would be the toms, and then this would be a crash. This would be a ride. That's how it is, at least with my acoustic kit. So let me go ahead and readjust that right now. This looks like a snare. Let's see if we can find a better snare. Let's put that there. So and let's try to find the closed hat, which is right here. Put that there. Open hat over here. Let's find a crash, put that there. Yeah, so that's good for now. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can always find a kit later that best suits what you're trying to do. And then over here, I can do the same thing with this kit here. Double click on that so I can see. And then also do the same thing. So here's a kick, snare. This is the type of snare actually I would put. Switch these around. This is the snare I put here. This is what I mean by fill snare. You can go like kind of like that. Oops. So I'm going to click here and then closed hat here. open hat here. There we go. Something like that. And then let's put a crash here. And then let's do the same thing over for this kit right here. So here's kick. That's not bad. I'll keep that there. Hi-hat here, closed hat here, open hat over here. Tom would go somewhere up here. This would go, oops, like that and like that, something like that. Right. And let's put this second kick here. Actually, let's switch these around. Let's get this one here and then this one right here. And we can actually, you know, change these as we want later, and then we'll put the crash over here. So not bad. So obviously it's harder, especially in a live environment, to move this back and forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign this to a physical knob, and we're going to do that first by clicking on this button right here, which shows the macro knobs right here. So if I turn this, I want this knob to control this right here. All right, the way I do that is first I right-click this here, and for some reason I just like mapping this to macro 5. You can do it to macro 1; it doesn't really matter, but I just got used to having it at macro 5, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Right, so you'll notice here now if I move the macro knob, it moves the chain selector as well. And what I do to get this knob over here on the Launchkey Mini to control this macro knob is I go Command M to get into MIDI assignment mode. I click here on the macro knob and then I just turn this knob. Now it is assigned, nice and easy. Command M, and now for some reason, I don't know if you noticed that when I went back from MIDI assignment mode back to Ableton, the in control button comes back on. Be aware that that happens. I don't know why it happens, but it keeps happening, so you have to keep turning it off whenever you make a MIDI assignment. So now if I move this here, nice and easy. Very cool. All right, so let's go ahead and save our work, Command S. Okay, so this is cool, but we probably want to add some of our own samples, either some of our own one-shots or snippets of songs that people know, and then put them into these drum kits and kind of mix the sounds together so that one kit will have a mix of drum sounds that have been pre-made in these kits and then other sounds that we add, right? So one place that we can go to do this is Splice. Go to splice.com. This place is awesome. Go to splice.com up here and you go to Sounds. I have an account here. You pay like $13 a month and then you get 300 credits. It ends up being like less than a nickel per download. And this site is just awesome. I'm going to show you here the desktop app. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some sounds that I've already downloaded and then drag them into Ableton Live. So let's take a look and find some sounds that I like. I'm going to go for maybe a vocal loop. So let's go vocal. Right, and you can make this one shots, you can make this loops. Let's go loops. And let's make it female loops with effects and see what happens. See what happens on Splice Sound. See, you can just kind of browse through and they give you some of these here in the app and then they give you the option of refreshing the results. So let's see.
Tell me you'll stay.
It's actually kind of loud. Let's turn that down. I don't know, it's so loud. Let's try it again.
It's a lot to find a friend. Yeah.
That's not bad. I'm gonna take that and I'll pay my 1 credit for it. It's like almost a nickel. Then right here, I've already downloaded, I've paid for it, and I can just drag this thing over here. Right, so I'm going to drag it into Ableton Live. I don't want to put it here. I'm going to hit Tab to get to Arrangement View, and then I'm going to put it up here in this audio track. Right, so here is, I think, the most efficient way to chop up samples is to do it in Arrangement View when you've warped a sample or have a sample that's already warped. Right, so I'm going to click here. I'm just going to rename this Command R and rename it Editing or Edit. Editing is fine. I think that's what I normally name it, and I'm going to color it blue just so I can see what it looks like from afar, right? And if I zoom in here, I can see that this sample is right here. If I double click it, most likely it's already warped, and it is warped with the original tempo at 120, which is what we see here, right? Where is it? What is it called? Yeah, oh, Oriental Vocal Loop. What wonderful. Anyway, 120 BPM. So let's listen to it. And this is actually not 120 BPM. Oh my gosh, that's loud. That's cool. So what I want to do is I want to kind of chop this thing up. And now that this is warped, by the way, if your settings are set here, if I go Command, comma, and I go to Ableton Preferences, and I go here to Record, Warp, and Launch, if this is set to auto, most of the time Ableton will guess, you know, very, very closely the best way to warp a sample. All right. So for those that don't know what warping is, to simplify warping is when Ableton can take a sample and make sure that it is always mapped to the tempo of the project. All right. So this original tempo is at 120, and this is set to 120 right now. But if I change this tempo, let's turn the metronome on. If I change the tempo to like 70, this will still be on time. It will just slow the sample down, and it will keep the pitch the same. Everything's so loud here. I gotta turn that monitor down. Cool. So we'll keep that 120. Actually, let's make this like 140. All right. So, when you do that, you want to make sure you hit Command J. That basically creates a new file, and now this is no longer originally at 120. At 120, it's now originally at 140. The reason for that is because I want to make a beat live at 140 or 70, however you like to look at it, right? So if I'm doing that, let's go ahead and chop these up into small samples. And it's really just a matter of, I'm going to unclick this, it's just taking the little snippets that you want, cutting them out, and then dragging them into parts of your rack. So if I select this rack over here, right? So I'm going to replace some of these pads, like these right here. I'm going to go ahead and replace some of these right here with some of these samples that I chop up. So here's how it goes. So I'll take this first one here, right? And chop that up there, here, here. So this is Command E that I'm using to split each one of these clips. I'll take that right there. I'll take this here, like that one right there. And why don't we just take this thing here too? That's kind of cool. And there's a little small thing right here. If you also select this and hit Command E, same thing. Actually, no, I don't like that. I'm going to undo that. Let's take this section here. Cool. So I've got some of these chopped up, and it's as simple as clicking on this track and then dragging to where I want it. So let's just drag this on top of this sample and replace it. So if I hit the corresponding pad, and that's way loud, what I can do is I can turn this down, and I can turn the volume sensitivity down. Right, so I'm going to drag these other ones in here. So here. All right, so we're going to go here and then drag that. All right, and then here. And take that one there, and take this, put that right there, and then here. Yeah, I want this one right there, and then I'm going to drag that, oops. Drag that guy, and I want this actually like right there. So I've got these four. Let's get these volumes correct. I'm going to turn the volume sensitivity down on all of these, and then put this down as well. Oops. -18. Drag that all the way down. -18. And then one more. Down. -18. Okay, so now. All right, very cool. And then another trick we can do with these samples is we can click over here, and click on the in, out, and then we can select different choke groups so that some of these samples don't play at the same time. For example, anything with this Vox in it, that's the one I want. I'm going to put this in choke group 4. I just pick randomly something that's not already in a choke group, right? So I'll just pick choke group 4, and then this one, choke group 4, just hit the pad, and then it selects it. So it makes it a lot easier. And then this one right here. So now they will never play at the same time because they choke each other. Pretty cool. All right, so now I can just kind of play around. Okay, so you can do this with any sample. You can chop it up here. Make sure to warp it first so that everything you cut is nice and clean when you import it in. And then once you bring it in here, we can go through this and probably in another video to really fine tune things. But you can really dial in what you want to do with the sample in here, and we can kind of cover that later. But for now, you're just going to take these little slices, put them into your kit, and play around. So that's pretty much it. I've got 3 kits in here, including the acoustic drum kit, and I explained earlier I like the acoustic drum kit to be the first one because I know that if I turn all the way to the left, no matter what, it's going to go to acoustic. Let's say I use the acoustic most, which is actually what I do throughout my sets. A lot of times if I'm just DJing and then I go back to doing like a live set and then go back to DJing, a lot of times during the DJ sets, I'll go back and hit a lot of these acoustic drum pads along with the music, like kind of like what I was saying before with like the way you would hear a drummer like Travis Barker or, play with DJ AM or A-Track, right? So I set this all the way, if I set this all the way to the left, I know I'm always going to get to that acoustic kit, right? And then I can just kind of search as I go along for the other kits as I need them. And you can imagine multiplying these kits, by as many as you want, and you can have as many in here as you want. So there you go. So now you have kind of this more economical way than using something like Native Instruments Machine to be able to do finger drumming in a live setup with something that's also very portable and not that expensive relatively. So at the very end now, we're just going to hit save, and that's it. So that's it for this tutorial. Thank you guys for watching. I hope it was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you had any issues, if this worked out for you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And in 2 weeks, I'll be coming out with my next video. And in that video, I'm gonna show you guys how to set up Ableton Live with a MIDI keyboard so that you can start playing synths live. This is the actual one that I use, which happens to be a Launchkey 49. I think this is a really great piece, but there's a lot of other things out there. You're gonna see some options, you're gonna learn how to set this up, and you'll start learning how to use keyboard playing with your live remix sets. All right, that's it for this video. Hit me up on socials, you know where to find me. I will see you guys next time.